Hello, Tracy, Leslie, Charito. Nice to have you here today. We start in few seconds, so I will switch my camera off. And thank you, Charito. I'm happy you can join because I read your message, just didn't have time to reply.
Oh, I just came in 20 minutes ago. I
That's
was
great.
rushing because of you.
Thank you
Sorry, I
very
could.
much, and I hope you will enjoy the topic today. So let's start.
Yes,
Good
thank
morning,
you.
good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the next Industry 5.0 Power of Touch event, in which, on the back of language, we write towards the wasteless world, speaking about one and only word. And today's word will be toys. Yes, you hear correctly, toys. And having you, Charito, on the top of my screen, I will start with you today. So when you close your eyes and you hear the word toys, what came first to your mind, please?
Okay, good evening, everyone. So glad to be here. Oh, toys. Well, when I close my eyes, definitely I went back to my childhood. This is a thing where which gives us happiness even when we were young. Toys are the playthings even for adults, although they're more appealable to the young ones. It represents something that gives us joy, even if, like, when we were young, we would like to ride a horse, but, well, we can only play with play horses, and the replicas, the small ones, the plastic ones, toys like gun, and many things that we can play with. So the to define it in a short term, toys are gadgets or things which are physical in nature and which is giving us pleasure or happiness when we use it and even when we look at it. And these are the ones that form our imaginations when were still young. And even when we're adults, we still have toys. But it depends on how we are in our current realities. So back to you, Michael.
Thank you very much, Charito. Leslie, when you close your eyes and you heard the term toys, what came first to your mind, please?
Hey, everybody. Uh, that's a good question. Toys. Charito did a good job. Toys are created as a pastime out of curiosity, and as Charito said, with imagination. It's a label for a plaything, and we can call anything a toy. It doesn't have to actually be a toy. Children very often create things in the woods and represent people with a stone or a piece of wood. So, toy goes beyond the physical, and it's merely a label for what I guess enhances our curiosity, entertains us, and gives us joy. Back to you, Michael.
Thank you very much, Leslie. Tracy, the same question for you. If you close your eyes and you hear the term toys, what came first to your mind, please?
Morning, Michael, everyone. Toys. When I hear the word, I actually thought about as for kids, right? Adults do have a toys, but very few. And then I remember that there's a Chinese word that we often refer to. It's translated into English as an educated man is not a vessel. That actually means that a person that's truly educated needs to understand, like Leslie always does on Monday, mind over matter. Um, a truly educated person should not limit his or her capacity to one specific area. It should be broad. Becoming a leader that person needs to know almost everything. It doesn't have to be an expert in this specific field, but he or she needs to understand almost everything. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tracy. And you know, I choose the term toys, being advised by Jane, because of the currently running COP30 in Brazil in Rio de Janeiro. COP30 is an event organized by Giant, uh, paid by giants to play with humans like toys. And, you know, I see frequently that we are treated, humans or animals are treated not like humans or animals, but really like toys. And sometimes the children don't know how to treat toys, so they are cruel. But unfortunately, I see the same with adults. And my question to you, Charito, to start the second round, do you feel any time of your life, do you feel that someone treated you like a toy in a positive or in a negative way?
That's something. I like your question. Something to think about deeply. You know, even ever since I was young, Michael, I am, although I'm not proud to say it, I'm very a strong person. Nobody can make me, play like me, like looking at me like a toy. Or nobody can do nonsense to me because, I always fight back. So if you mess with me, I'll mess with you. I think what you mean here is if somebody, like without regards to the feeling of another person, or maybe a person looks down on another, so he played around with it. It's like you're being toying one instance to another. It's like if you are like in the business, they're playing. Uh, it's not hide and seek actually. It's something like anyway you go, you don't win with these people around you because at that moment you feel that you're lesser. So when you're made of a toy in that sense, as far as I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the power lies on those people who made you like a toy. So, but then at the end of the day, uh, there's only one thing that matters: whether you realize and fight back and stop being a toy, or you don't realize it at all, or you may do with it because it has something to do with you. That at the end of that plaything, quote unquote, playing with you, taking you as a toy, there is something positive that will come to you. So it's a question of thinking what that person who is uh, played with. So at this instance, it's the toy, a human toy. What he has, what it's got to do with him or her at the end of the play. I would say play because in one is making you a toy. It's you're playing with you around, not literally though. I would say that that is something that is for me. It's not human. Not it doesn't follow the norms. You don't make another person a toy or a plaything, right? Back to you, Michael.
Thank you very much. I know that the question was hard, and this is why I will ask the same Leslie. Leslie, you told us a lot from your life, and I have the same question for you. Did you ever feel like a toy in a positive or a negative way?
Uh, well, first, let me say that people that play with the emotions and the feelings and thoughts of other people, I'm going to say that they are unaware they're doing it. And I'm thinking it's manipulation and it falls into narcissism, right? And it's really, are we giving up control by being played with, or do we recognize the that part of that person and the pattern that they continue to repeat, to understand that they are using you to get what they want. So the narcissist wants to either be the center of attention, and if they're not, they will be the victim. So they always want the attention on them. Oh, poor me, or oh, look at me. Now, something that's kind of it's interesting that we're the men here. I don't know whether it's a single word, but Dr. Arshard's gone. Lucy is in here. I can't think of his name. There's so many that were here. It's very interesting. But as an adult, my experience around men my age is that women are sexual playthings. And there are many men around the world that believe that women are a toy for their lust. Now, there are even toys made in the image of a full-sized woman for men to use as their quote toy. Now, I don't usually go talk about this, but again, when a man or a woman becomes a sex addict, it is all about them. That is all they want. Anybody who stands in the way, they will combat. And this is likely a very large part of the reason that our divorce rates are absolutely unbelievable. 50% of first marriages, 75% of second and third marriages. And effectively, what's happening is people are using one another probably to fill in fears and perhaps childhood trauma that was never faced. Bullying is manipulation, and if you participate, which it's hard not to, particularly when you're a kid, right, then you actually are forced to give up your control or your power. And if you've ever been bullied, it is the weakest place to be. And you may not, even if you're as strong as we three ladies are, we may not be in a position to fight back, which means that we have to swallow it. And that in itself, will cause long-term fear and trauma. Now, I'll give you a quick answer since it's just us. A quick example. And I always thought that what I did was weak, but I heard something the other day that said that a person who can withstand group bullying is really strong. So when I was in middle school at lunch, we were able to go into the gymnasium and take our shoes off, right? Because on those floors, you can't wear shoes, and hang out in the gym with our friends and so forth. And one day at lunch, that day, there was a new rule passed in school that you couldn't break into the lunch line. There was a big thing about people breaking into the lunch line and lots of complaints in homeroom. So a new uh, direction came down. You can't do that. Well, Miss Leslie here, Miss Big Mouth, who wants everything to be fair, even back then, mentioned in homeroom that the president of our class was doing that. Well, of course, the president of the class is the most popular girl in school. So during that break that day at lunch, homeroom being in the morning, I was leaning against the wall briefly, and all of a sudden, this president of the class and about 15 of her best buddies formed a circle around me, and I'm against the wall. Now, they're not real close to me. They're probably 6 feet away, but they trapped me and began screaming at me. You lied. This person never, right? And so when you have people getting together like that, that's called interim agreement. It doesn't mean it's true, but everybody kind of gangs up. Now, I, it was all I could do not to cry, but there was something in me that would not let me show how scared I was. And that is an example of how bullying, and they got that from their parents, that's a learned behavior. So likely they were bullied too. And whenever there's an opportunity to gang up on someone at a very low emotional intelligence rate with parents that taught them not to be empathetic without meaning to, because probably their parents didn't either. But the bottom line is that I wouldn't give up my power, and my power, as I look at it now, was not crying. What did it do to me eventually? I don't know. But people, I think the end of this really is I'm not sure people have awakened yet to realize that there's more to life than living by default. Everybody will, even if it's on their deathbed, ultimately they will. And our job, so that we aren't played, right, by people who haven't yet woken up, is to be more aware than they are of does this have anything to do with me, or is it really about them? So we have to be on our feet to not be taken advantage of. Okay, I've talked enough. That was a lot, I know, and I hope it was all okay. Thank you, Michael, and everybody.
It was, and thank you very much. And Tracy, I cannot let you without the same question. So, have you ever in your life feel that you are a toy of someone in a positive or in a negative way?
I would say when I was younger, yes, because I used to play with older kids, especially my older brother's friends. I was the only girl chasing them around, and I thought I was kind of a boy and did a lot of funny things. They taught me a lot of bad things, but that was still pretty fun. But after I became an adult, I'm very sensitive to many things. If they treat me differently, I feel very offended. Okay, but understand that there's significant differences between men and women. But I will say a toy was created by people. Therefore, oftentimes people don't have any respect for the toy we created. And when I have my own kids and I see them, sometimes they do exhibit some abusive behavior toward toys or things they have control over completely. And I think when they were younger, it's easy to educate them and tell them, oh, everything has a soul, right? Treat them equally with some respect, and they listen. But when they get to teenage, right now I have a seventh grader and ninth grader, 14 and 15 respectively. I know it's pretty hard to convince them in any way that I used to do, and I can feel that they kind of having a lot of different opinions. Sometimes they do not voice their different opinions, but they do have that gesture that shows different things. And I know it might be a teenager thing, but in general I think girls are a little bit more respectful. That's just in general. Of course, there is individuals, but in the younger generations I see they are more assertive, affirmative compared to the older ones. I think they have more confidence, sometimes even arrogance in their mind compared to the days I was in their age. That's my observation. And in adults around me, I did pay attention to I like to observe what they do. So oftentimes it hits me when I see everybody's on their phone, right? We are just drawn into this toy slash tool. It really depends on how you use it, right? Sometimes we use it for entertainment and it became a toy. But oftentimes we use it for productivity, then it's a tool. So it changes. Sometimes it's the toy, sometimes it's a tool because toy is a tool as well, right? For play. But are we really using the phone or the phone is using us? I don't know. Sometimes I get confused. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I know that the question was hard, but it's interesting that the term brings us to our childhood. And let me ask you one very, very private question or sensitive question from your childhood. Charito, do you remember your favorite toy?
A favorite toy?
Yes.
Yes. We have dolls. That's a toy. Dolls, and we used to, put dresses on them, and we have plenty. We're three girls, all in a row, 1 year after another. My sister is the oldest, Mariles, me. 1 year after, then after me is Joyce Elaine. So the three of us were given these dolls. Then we have playthings. But outside our house, we played with a lot of toys. The children around us. And Michael, during my time, in the 60s and 70s, times were still sort of ahead, or because we live in the province and our culture was so embedded with faith and religion, so our toys, we did that. We played with it during Saturdays and Sundays or only after school. But my favorite was my doll, and then there are plenty of toys, but I always stuck to it. Sometimes I slept with it. I was in grade one, probably two, three, four, until I was in high school, when I have to let go of it because they said I was not young anymore. So back to you. Yes, I have. My favorite is my doll, and
Thank you.
it's like Barbie. I think it looks like Barbie, but I did not know a thing about Barbie dolls before, except that it was so beautiful, pretty, like an angel, like you know, coming from outside the country. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Charito. Leslie and Tracy, I will ask you the same question. Do you remember your most favorite toy when you have been child from your childhood?
I do. I do. This was before Barbie. And the thing about playing with dolls as a toy, it taught us, we got to practice our parenting skills, right? We would reprimand the doll and we would love the doll. So we women, and I'm
Yes.
sure men too, got to do this. Now, my favorite doll was a doll like Dorito, and it was called the Ginny doll. Ginny. This was long before Barbie. And the Ginny doll actually was released in 1948. Now, that's when I'm two. Okay, so I'm 2 years old when this doll came out. It wasn't called that until about, I think, 3 or 4 more years later. So, and I remember, and there were no other dolls like that. So the Ginny doll was the one, my Ginny doll. And we didn't have, like my granddaughters, when the American Girl dolls came out, and I don't know if you're familiar with these dolls are $100 plus. All right, my granddaughters, I have three granddaughters that are 18 and two that are 20. And there was a rage, probably when they were 11 or 12, where the American Girl doll was what they had to have, but one was not enough. The pressure was on to the Generation X, my children's age, which is the sandwich generation, which is a very protective generation. This is where homeschooling really, started going nuts with kids my children's age. But I'm talking about my grandchildren. They had one of them had four American Girl dolls. And by the way, there are clothes that you must have. to go with the doll. So it's almost like the Izod Lacoste shirt, right? It had the little alligator on it and little boys. It was the same thing with boys. It was the expensive, right? There was something, oh yeah. But it's so interesting. My own daughter, who's a Gen X, came up during the Cabbage Patch time, which are these looking handmade dolls with soft faces, and they don't really look like a porcelain. They're not porcelain, they're not plastic. And her favorite doll was Jennifer. Jennifer was 3 feet tall and was a rag doll. And her little brother, my son, one day ripped her from her, you know what, to her neck. In other words, pulled the legs apart, ripping Jennifer in half, but still attached at the neck. And my daughter, she didn't have Barbies at that. I'm saying, no, she didn't have Barbies at that time. No, I'm getting the kids confused. This is my daughter, right? And I had to perform surgery, and it was a big ordeal where I got out my needle and thread, and we took her to the hospital, and I sewed her up from neck in the front all the way to the back. And of course, Matthew, my son, was in big trouble. But the devastation of her seeing that doll ripped, right, by pulling the legs apart, which would rip it right up to the head, and it's all cloth. Thank goodness it stopped at the head. So I think that perhaps we haven't looked closely enough to think about, Tracy, what you had said about observing. I'm not, I mean, I can look back on it now and see what had happened. And I knew instinctively I had to perform surgery on this doll. There was no way that that doll was leaving the house. That was her doll. It was like a child. So I don't know. I think if we could maybe only observe earlier, I remember Ginny dolls and never had a Barbie that I can remember. And it came out, I think, in the 50s. So, yeah, that's my story. Thanks, guys, for listening.
Thank you very much, Leslie. Tracy, the same question is waiting for you. So, do you remember your favorite toy from your childhood?
Thank you, Michael. This question was asked by my kids a long time ago, and they asked, "Mom, did you have a toy when you were little, and what's your favorite?" I said, I had no toys. The reason I said it because I don't have that kind of toy. Like what they have, okay, which is really fancy, the features, right? The one is soft and squishy and making sound, even movable. But I do had, I think I did have toys in my time. For some reason, I'm always scared of dolls because the one that has eyelashes making sound when you squeeze, and it represents a person to me. It's always scary. Like, how can this little person, is it alive or something? I think mine might be traumatized when I was very little, but I don't recall anything. But the toy, actually, I played often with my friends. It's more like a game. So because I grew up in the northern part of China, we have a lot of Manchurians, Mongolians. So they use animal bones. Okay, so this is a ankle bone game that girls play. We toss a ball on sometimes a sandbag in the air, and then we collect as many animal ankle bones that they call that shagai. It's made of the animal ankle bones. Sometimes it's very tiny from the sheep, very little. Sometimes it might be a little bit sizable, maybe like the size of um, let's see, I can refer to, and anyway, about 1 inch or 2 or 3 centimeters big, and then it has 4 sides. Sometimes it's colored, and then we'll flip them. Sometimes we go by different rules. Anyway, I think it's a fine motor skill training game. We have lots of games like that. It's just made by the adults. It's not commercialized. I think now they might have some synthetic material made into those, but not popular anymore because it's not that expensive. It's very affordable. Anybody can make it. You can sew a sandbag, or you can just get a rubber ball. It's popular among my generation back in um, the 70s, 80s. But I think later on, the entire toy industry, fully grown into my gaming business now. I think all these toys are probably only left in the countryside. And when I look at for videos to show my boys, it was pretty hard to find any. I think it's more and more now because people do dig into the tradition and to show what they had. I guess the awareness of the boomers and the Gen X trying to show, okay, what we had in our childhood, right? It looks like we were happier compared to the kids now who have fancy toys. So that's just the gap right there. And I hope that kids nowadays can still appreciate some of the educational toys we had in the early days. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you very much. And it was so beautiful. I have to tell you that despite of being a boy, my favorite was a doll as well. So this hairy, beautiful hair and so on. So I love, and of course I loved a technique. So Lego-like, because at the time when I was a boy, there was not an official Lego in my country, but we have similar. But back to current time, Charito. Do you have a favorite toy today as adult? And we have 7 minutes left.
A toy?
Yes.
If my gadgets are toys, then probably they are. No, if you mean toy for playing or what? No, I don't have. I'm more into my cell phones and my laptop and all that. I don't have any, but I have decorations, toys. Like there's a doll and that. Well, I'm looking around. Yeah, plenty. These are toys supposedly for my grandkids, but they are not here. I'm alone here, and so no more favorite for me. Back to you, Michael.
Thank you very much. And I really love your laugh. I will explain why I'm asking because Jane, my girlfriend, gave me 1 meter tall teddy bear. I call him Jane as well.
Wow.
And I sleep with Jane, the teddy bear, in my bed. And it's really for me a toy which I enjoy. So let me ask you the same question. Do you have a toy as adult which is favorite to you?
Well, it goes back to the label of toy,
Yes.
right? It's, you could say your phone is a toy because there are games on there and there's social media, but I don't know. I will tell you that at this stage of my life, the kinds of toys I play with are such as taking my whole family and going bowling together or setting up the badminton court in the yard, right? When everybody comes over and everybody plays badminton. We don't get outside very much with all these devices. Or I'll set up a croquet set, right? So the toys for me now seem to center around family events where we play like we did when I was younger, that it wasn't glued to a TV or everyone's nose in their phone. It was actually out in the world. And, since I'm not walking really well, I have an electric scooter. And on the weekends, either my son or daughter and their families will come over. We may go get something to eat, and then we take a walk, and I'm on the scooter, and that's where we talk. So I don't want to attribute toy to something small and insignificant, but rather my family playing with toys as a group. Thank you, Michael.
This is beautiful. Tracy, I will have the same question for you. And you are the youngest in the club today. So do you have a toy as an adult? So a favorite one today?
If we have to narrow down a specific thing that I play with, that would be my car.
Ah,
I don't think I'm a very responsible driver, even when sometimes when I'm taking my boys to school, I'm just a very speedy driver. I know I shouldn't be that way, but whenever I feel anxious or maybe because I need to take them somewhere at certain time, and these boys are not really helpful, when get things ready, and then they just squeeze me into the 5 minutes I need to be somewhere, right? So I constantly be the fast driver, and I have to be very careful with safety and concerns. And then the boys are sitting behind me like the two little gods, one next to me right now in the front seat, and questioning about my driving skills and why you do this and that. And then I just get even more agitated because they were the person, they were the reason that put me in that situation. But I think nowadays I'm getting better and better at this. I can calm down and just say, if you're late, it's not my problem. You can only drive at 35 miles per hour in this 40-mile zone. I don't want to go 45. I know 45 is still safe. Police will not give me a ticket. However, that's not the way I want it to be. But when they're not around, I think I still tend to drive a little bit faster because I can be late for anything. Thank you, Michael. That's a
uh,
very good question.
thank you very much, Charito, Tracy, and thank you all. It was such a fascinating conversation today because, we travel the time. In 1 minute, we have been children again. And then we jump to be adults. And in the middle, we have been who we are, humans. And that's so beautiful. And this is why I'm so happy that we have the term today. And I know Leslie was asking about Dr. Ash. So Dr. Ash, unfortunately, at the moment, he has another appointment in the Wednesday afternoon. So he can hardly join. He will try to join my next session on Wednesday with Bill and Kevin, but even there, he has had trouble. Usi, unfortunately, he cannot join today because of the connection, and he's looking for a new job. So he is spending a lot of time in a search for a job. So this is why they are not joining us. But it was a fascinating discussion, a fascinating ride on the back of a language. Again, such a simple term as toy make me so happy. And when I was asking whether you feel sometime as a toy, I have my experience. It was a bullying and it was a different one, and I was happy. But right now, when I look what the giants do to humans using them as toys, I hope the toys will wake up and will wake up in a way that they don't let the giants play according to the giants' rule, because we have our own rules, human rules. And I know that when the humans start to grow, the giants start to shrink, and that's the right time in which we are living, that this will happen, and it will happen very soon. So I wish you all have a nice time, free of waste and wasting in all its forms. Stay safe, be free, be human, and enjoy your toys in safety. And see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Michael, Charito, Leslie, thank
Hello,
you. Take
Trace.
care.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.